Okay, so let's make a 3D version of this shopping bag. I'm going to start with this one and then modify it and make a version like this. I'm actually going to try and draw it as though it's an isometric drawing. Isometric drawings, I'm going Edit, Preferences and Smart Guides, have 30-degree angles. So you'd have to go in here and change your Smart Guides to 30-degree angles. Ensure that all the Smart Guides are checked here. And I'll hit OK. What that means is that when I'm drawing, I can place an anchor and the guides will tell me if I'm being consistently on the same angle, and it will keep my drawing all uniform. So firstly, I'm going to draw a rectangle with the rectangle tool, roughly in this proportion. So a bit taller than it is wide. So there's my shape. Now that didn't draw it at 30 degrees, so I'm just going to right click on it and transform shear. And with the shear dialog box open, I'm just going to hit preview, and I can try and change it so it's how I want it to appear. So that's shearing vertically to the left. So I'm okay with that. I'll hit OK. Notice the proportion's a bit out. So what I'm going to do is drag this end of the shape in. So I'll use the direct selection tool, which is A on the keyboard, and drag those in. I don't want to drag it off the angle, so I'm going to make sure that it's following the existing path till it is in the position that I want. So there's one side, and I'll draw another rectangle using the guides to make sure it's on the right position. And this time when I right click, transform and shear it, I'll have to change the angle to, I think, 150. Yeah, 150 works. And hit OK. Notice that it's not aligned with the other shape, so just V on your keyboard to bring up the selection tool, drag it off, and then using the anchors, place it exactly over the other one. Now, because I want to duplicate these to finish the bag off, I'm going to fill both shapes. So I'll just go to swatches and I'll pick a colour for the end of the bag here. I'll make it blue as a fill, so I'll just switch that around. It's got no stroke colour on it. And the left hand side under swatches, I'll just pick a darker blue. And whoops, turn off the stroke so it doesn't have a black outline. So that's giving me the semblance of a 3D shape straight away. I'm going to copy this first shape by holding down Alt with the selection tool highlighted, and then position it behind the other one. I can make sure it's at the back by right clicking and saying Arrange Center Back. Now I'm going to duplicate this shape and make sure it lines up with the other corners, and do the same, right click, Arrange Center Back. I'm going to change this front one now. I don't want it to be exactly the same shade as that front one, and so I've just made it a medium blue, and already I have the shape that I'm after. Now what I want to do is get a handle on top of this. So what I might do is draw a circle. So use the ellipse tool, hold down Shift to maintain that proportion so I get a nice curve on top. I'm going to turn it into a stroke. I might just change the colour so we can see the difference. Let's thicken the stroke of that. I want my handle about that thick. Now I'm going to cut it. Under the eraser tool there is the scissor tool, or C on your keyboard, and we're going to cut it on that anchor and that one, and hit delete. Remove those sections. Grab the pen tool and click on one anchor and then extend a line down. Deselect by holding Control and click on the desktop. Select the other one. Notice the smart guides are actually lining those up, and my handle's looking alright. Now I want to shear it. right click, transform, shear, and I'm shearing it at 30 degrees. Looks a bit distorted, but I can position that here. Ideally, I'd want to, that was supposed to duplicate. I'm going to make it a bit smaller so it sits better in there. And once you position it, you can actually send it behind the other shape. What I might do is just right click on the front shape, arrange, bring to front, so the handle sits behind. I'll duplicate it, but when I duplicate it, I want to hold it on one of the anchors and drag it at 30 degrees. So hopefully it's a good match. And there is my shopping bag. What I'm going to do is select all of that, just scale it down and put a copy up here. Hold down Alt and duplicate it. This time I'm going to make a version that looks like this bag. So firstly, I'm going to remove the handles, just select those and delete. I want this bag to face the other way, so I'm going to right click, transform, reflect, vertical, hit OK, and it's facing the other way. Now I'm going to edit this so that it's longer width-wise and maybe shallower height-wise. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool, and I'll just highlight only the anchors in the top section of the package, and I'll just use the cursor and shift to move that down 10 increments at a time. So I'm adjusting the height very quickly. I can do the same for the end, but I'm not going to use the cursor this time, or the arrows. I want to drag it at 30 degrees, so I just make sure that it stays aligned with those angles, and you can run it over the existing anchors, and hopefully your smart guides will help you out. If not, just make sure that the lines stay at the 30 degrees. Just extend it a bit more that way. So that's looking good. What I want to do is now taper it a bit like this bag, and I'm going to hold down Shift and select those top anchors, drag it in at 30 degrees a fraction, and do the same here. But I can't select these middle anchors without affecting the whole shape. So I'm going to try and use the lasso tool and just select those anchors. Switch back to A. Drag those in a fraction, which is changing the top shape, which is not what I wanted. Let's try it another way. Let's grab just those and Shift, hold one of those in, drag it into place. That's better. And then I can go and grab this one and align it with that. Next, let's do the handle. So I'm going to use the rounded rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a shape a bit like a tablet, but I need it sideways actually. That's my handle shape. Right click, transform, and shear. I want it at 150 degrees because I want it running the same direction as the bag. V, and we'll just scale it down a bit. We'll put one there, and we'll put one here. It should be aligned. At the moment it's not a hole in the shape, so let's just zoom in. Control plus. I'm going to select that shape, hold down Shift and select the other shape, and bring up Pathfinder. Pathfinder's under your window, and bring up Pathfinder here. I just turn that off. Let's turn it on again. And there's something which will divide those two overlapping shapes. So I hit divide and the direct selection tool, and I can pull out that handle and I can see through to the back. I'm going to do the same with this one. Hold down Shift and select both. Divide, It brought it forward. I'm going to use the direct selection tool, A on the keyboard, to delete that. Select it once more, right click, arrange and send to back. Lastly, I might try and colour this. So I'll colour it all at once. Object, and under options here, edit colours, here we go. Recolor artwork. Let's make it warm colours. You can play around with that more yourself if you like. Another thing that you might like to do is to divide the end up so it looks like it's folded. That's not too hard. Deselect, use the pen tool and just copy part of the shape. And I'm just going to use eyedropper, I on the keyboard, and eyedrop that end and maybe get something in between both those colours. Double click, make it a bit redder. And I could do the same with this part and that part and finish those off. This one I might make a bit lighter, eyedrop, and lighten that. Double click to just modify it a bit so it's maybe a bit darker. And as you can see, very quickly I've managed to get a couple of 3D packages. Later on I can put designs and logos on here as well.